unmasking a monster, the horrific crimes of Josef Fritzl. Josef Fritzl. The name sends shivers down the spine. An ordinary-looking man from Austria, he became synonymous with depravity. In 2008, the world gasped in horror as his crimes came to light. His own daughter, Elizabeth, emerged from the depths of his meticulously crafted dungeon. For 24 years he had kept her captive, subjecting her to unimaginable cruelty. Fritzl's crimes shocked the conscience of humanity. How could a father commit such atrocities against his own flesh and blood? The story unfolded like a horror film, revealing a darkness that lurked beneath the surface of a seemingly normal life. The revelation of Elizabeth's captivity sent shockwaves through the quiet town of Amstetten and beyond. It shattered the illusion of safety within one's own home. The case served as a chilling reminder of the evil that can reside in the most unexpected places. A house of horrors, imprisonment and abuse. The basement of the Fritzl home was no ordinary cellar. It was a meticulously designed prison, a soundproof chamber of horrors. Fritzl had spent years expanding and reinforcing it, creating a labyrinth of hidden rooms. It was a space where he could exert absolute control over his victims. Elizabeth was just 18 when her own father lured her into the basement. He drugged and shackled her, beginning her living nightmare. Over the years she would give birth to 7 children, fathered by her own tormentor. 3 of the children remained trapped underground with their mother. The conditions in the basement were deplorable. Cramped, damp, and poorly ventilated, the space was unfit for human habitation. Natural light was non-existent, replaced by the cold glare of artificial bulbs. The lack of sanitation and proper hygiene added to the horrific reality of their existence. The soundproof prison, a descent into darkness. Fritzl ruled the dungeon with an iron fist. He controlled every aspect of their lives. Food, water and other necessities were provided sparingly, always with an undercurrent of fear. The threat of punishment hung heavy in the air. The thick walls and soundproofed ceilings ensured their cries for help went unheard. Elizabeth and her children lived in a perpetual state of fear, their spirits slowly crushed under the weight of their captivity. The outside world seemed like a distant dream. The psychological toll of their imprisonment was immense. Deprived of sunlight, fresh air and human contact, they suffered. Malnutrition, untreated illnesses, and the constant threat of violence became their grim reality. A twisted mind, control, and manipulation. Fritzl's control over Elizabeth and her children extended beyond the physical confines of the dungeon. He was a master manipulator, weaving a web of lies to keep them submissive. He presented himself as their savior, their only connection to the outside world. He fabricated stories about the dangers that lurked beyond the basement walls, instilling in them a constant fear of escape. He even forced Elizabeth to write letters claiming she had run away to a cult. This elaborate deception helped him maintain the illusion of normalcy to the outside world. Fritzl's cruelty knew no bounds. He would often subject Elizabeth and the children to punishments for the slightest perceived infraction. He controlled their access to basic necessities like food and water, using them as tools of manipulation. After 24 years of unimaginable suffering, a glimmer of hope emerged. One of Elizabeth's daughters, Kerstin, became seriously ill. Her condition deteriorated rapidly in the squalid basement. Elizabeth pleaded with her father to seek medical attention. Reluctantly, Fritzl agreed to take Kerstin to the hospital. This act of desperation, driven by a mother's love for her child, would ultimately lead to their liberation. Kerstin's arrival at the hospital, weak and unresponsive, raised alarm bells. Doctors were baffled by her condition, which seemed to stem from years of neglect and lack of sunlight. They alerted the authorities, who began to investigate the circumstances surrounding her illness. The investigation quickly focused on Josef Fritzl. His story about finding the sick teenager on his doorstep seemed suspicious. Police noticed inconsistencies in his account. They pressed him for answers, sensing that he was hiding something sinister. Under intense questioning, the truth began to unravel. Fritzl confessed to imprisoning his daughter and fathering her children. He led authorities to the hidden entrance of the dungeon, revealing the horrific truth that lay hidden beneath the surface. The world watched in disbelief as Elizabeth and her children emerged from the darkness. Their pale faces, malnourished bodies and haunted eyes told a story of unimaginable suffering. The trial of Josef Fritzl was a media sensation. The world listened in horror as the full extent of his crimes was revealed. He faced charges of rape, incest, kidnapping, false imprisonment and slavery. Throughout the trial, Fritzl remained emotionless, showing no remorse for his actions. He attempted to justify his behavior, claiming that he had created a perfect family in the dungeon. The jury was unconvinced by his defense. They found him guilty on all charges. He was sentenced to life in prison, a small measure of justice for the decades of suffering he had inflicted. The Fritzl case sent shockwaves throughout the world. It exposed the dark underbelly of human nature, the capacity for evil that can lurk behind closed doors. The case highlighted the importance of vigilance, the need to pay attention to signs of abuse and speak out against injustice. For Elizabeth and her children, the road to recovery has been long and arduous. They have shown incredible strength and resilience in rebuilding their lives. The scars of their trauma, however, will likely remain with them forever. The Fritzl case serves as a stark reminder of the importance of protecting the vulnerable. It underscores the need for greater awareness of child abuse, domestic violence, and other forms of exploitation.